Some of history's greatest treasures were never meant to be found. But fate, or maybe just dumb luck, had other plans. Antiques, old clothes, dusty heirlooms. That's all one woman thought she'd find cleaning out her dad's house. But what she uncovered turns out to be worth far more than just memories.
It's 2004 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Susan Hendry Trejo is going through the belongings of her late father, Basil Hendry Sr. They're going through antiques and old clothing and some religious artwork that he had collected.
Susan keeps a few paintings that have sentimental value and then assigns the rest to a pile that she's willing to sell, including a dark, old, gloomy painting of Jesus Christ.
So a year passes and Susan finally gets around to having these paintings appraised. The appraiser isn't really blown away by any of them, but he thinks that one of Jesus could maybe get $750 from the right collector.
The piece has been heavily overpainted, maybe even multiple times. It looks almost cartoonish. Plus, the painting's condition is deteriorating, so Susan is eager to get rid of it, and she puts it up for auction.
When the painting hits the auction floor, something happens that shocks everyone.
The bidding starts low, but several paddles go up, blasting past the $750 mark.
They start going above $2,000, $3,000, and eventually this painting sells for roughly $10,000.
10 grand isn't going to change her life, but it's certainly a lot more than she'd hoped to get from cleaning out some of the old family belongings. So Susan pockets the money, and she really doesn't think much more about it.
A few years later, Susan's phone starts ringing off the hook.
Out of nowhere, members of the media begin calling Susan, asking her about this Jesus painting that she sold at auction. They asked, where did you find it? Where did it come from? And most importantly, did she know what she had?
To most, it looked like just another old painting. But as the new owners embark on a skilled restoration, a very different story comes to light.
As they clean it up and remove the dark layers of paint on the surface, a new, different image starts to be revealed.
The group takes infrared photographs to get a better look at this image that's peeking through. They see what's called a pentimento, which is basically a tracing of an earlier piece.
There's a version underneath the painting where Jesus' thumb is straight instead of in a curved position.
Based on this, the new owners believe they've uncovered a lost work from one of the most famous artists of all time, Leonardo da Vinci.
As it's carefully restored, the piece becomes easily recognizable as a missing Da Vinci known as Salvator Mundi, which translates to the savior of the world.
The revelation sparks a flurry of headlines. How did such an important work of art end up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
Susan believes that her father acquired the painting from her Aunt Millie, but no one ever mentioned that this painting was anything overtly special.
With little to go on, experts dig deeper to better connect the dots.
Researchers tracked down records from a Sotheby's auction in 1958 featuring the estate of James Cook, the grandson of famous British art collector Sir Francis Cook.
Sure enough, there's a record of Aunt Millie buying this painting for 45 pounds, roughly 120 bucks.
Once it's fully restored, the Salvator Mundi goes back up for auction in 2017.
So, this time, a member of the Saudi royal family buys it at auction for $450 million, making this once discarded painting the most valuable piece of art in world history.
You'd think if you were spending almost $500 million on a painting, you'd want to show it off, but nobody's seen it since the sale.
The rumor is that it is in a high-security vault somewhere in Switzerland. And with the history of the Salvator Mundi of appearing and disappearing, we may never see it again. Or maybe we will.
In 2012, another revered piece of history falls into one woman's lap.
Marie Malchotti, who's a book conservation technician at Brown University's library, is going through a recent donation from the estate of Solomon Drown, who graduated from Brown in the year 1773.
And while going through a book that was published in 1811 called The Modern Practice of Physics, she finds something unusual. A little slip of paper is tucked in the back.
She carefully unfolds the paper and she sees a depiction of Jesus' baptism by John the Baptist. But at the bottom, she notices an inscription that says, P. Revere Sculp.
Malchotti can't believe her eyes. She knows that sculp in a signature stands for sculpsit, which is Latin for he engraved it. And she sees the name P. Revere. So she started thinking to herself, there's no way that this could be the Paul Revere from the Revolutionary War.
Most Americans know from school that in April 1775, Paul Revere was responsible for warning the colonists that the British military was on their way.
Less well known is the fact that before he became a celebrated patriot, Revere made copperplate engravings for books and magazines.
Arguably, his most famous engraving was the Boston Massacre in 1770, which was used as a key piece of propaganda for the American Revolutionary War effort.
But this piece is a little different. This etching is of a religious nature. It depicts Jesus being fully submerged in the Jordan River by John the Baptist. The piece is titled, Buried with Him by Baptism.
For more insight, Malchotti brings the etching to Richard Noble, the Brown University Library's rare material cataloger.
Noble first examines the paper itself. He holds the paper up to the light and he sees a rib structure, which is a telltale sign of 18th century paper.
Then Noble moves on to his next area of focus, looking at who Solomon Drown actually was. The alumnus who owned that collection of books, it turns out that he was a contemporary of Revere's. So the age of the books, as well as the etching, they both line up.
Finally, Noble discovers that there are actually 4 other copies of this etching attributed to Paul Revere. So he calls the American Antiquarian Society and the Worcester Art Museum to have this copy compared to the others.
Sure enough, they're a match. So it's an authentic Paul Revere etching. But there is one difference between this one and the other copies. This is the only one with the full plate mark visible, making it extremely rare.
The exact value of this etching isn't known, but other Revere works, including one of the Boston Massacre, have sold for over $400,000 at auction. And this one is even more unique.
Now, while this incredible engraving has been featured in numerous exhibits, you can actually go see it today. Whether you're a history buff or a Paul Revere enthusiast, it's at the John Hay Library at Brown University, by appointment only.